I left my abusive husband today. Help me to get full custody of my daughter. Long story short, I had been considering divorce somewhat until I picked up the audiobook. Why does he do that? Dealing with angry men. And I realized I was in an abusive relationship. I thought because he never hit me that it wasn't physical abuse, but I learned threats of violence count towards physical abuse. I realized all the SHT he's done to me was a choice, and not reasonably explained away by his excuses. The thing is, I couldn't have discovered this about us at a worse time. My husband is in a musical, and they're in Tech Week. He gets up, goes to work, goes to Tech Week, and comes home to sleep. There is no time for this serious discussion. And once I found out I'd been abused, I couldn't let it go. I have hypervigilance towards justice, and the few days I've been home with him were torture to try and keep the mask up. He even started interrogating me about what was wrong, and I got so frightened I'd give myself away. Today I had a panic attack after a panic attack about how I should approach leaving him and how soon. I finally broke and called my mom, and I told her everything. I said I needed help finding a plan, but most of all, I needed a safe place to stay and figure it out. I have an almost 2-year-old, and my silent panic attacks were making it difficult for me to focus on her needs. My mom and I came up with a plan. I would tell my husband that I was running a fever, and that my daughter and I were quarantining at my parents' house until the first weekend of the show ended. This would give me time to calm down at their house and come up with a better plan for telling him the truth about why I left. My sister and sister-in-law came over to help me pack for the likely few weeks I would stay. I'm desperately trying to keep myself afloat. Most of the abuse came as verbal attacks against my time blindness and messiness. It bled into my character, lack of ambition, and laziness. All, of course, traits of ADHD. I have so much healing to do, and there is so much time to end before I can tell him. Hopefully, my lies hold up. I feel terrible, but I'm happy I'm moving towards a resolution. Same day update. I have a really good lawyer working on the case right now. They're going to serve him papers in a few days, and I won't say a word to him beforehand. It will be brutal and sudden, but I guess this is how it's going to be. Comments. In response to OP saying the comments they got have given them hope. Because we've got our ADHD things, it's easier to settle for people who put up with our foibles. But that doesn't mean we should settle for actual abuse. I'm glad you've got a route out. OP gives another example of the abuse in the comments. Yes, I wish I could just disappear and get an uncontested divorce. But since we have a daughter, I'm 100% sure he will try to get custody. It's one of the things he threatened he'd do if I left. I've got to be clear, communicative, and professional through this period, so nothing can be used against me in divorce court. Ugh, so sorry to hear about what you went through. I went through something similar. He once aimed a kick at my head while I was pregnant. And I left him, and I said I wouldn't speak to him unless it was through a marriage counselor. Which he came to, let nothing absorb, and we went back. And all he knew was that if he actually tried to hurt me, I would take it seriously. He has reverted to threats and psychological effery since then, and I feel so bad for the past me who thought a counselor would do any good. To this end, the OP was told to lawyer up and talk to a therapist, and the OP says they have proof of the husband admitting to the kick in their counseling sessions. In one of your posts, you mentioned that your parents are very controlling, and even orchestrated your entire dating life, even the proposal. You said they made it impossible for you and your husband to live without their help. They employed your husband and gave him a raise to discourage him from pursuing another job. They also bought a house 10 minutes away from their home to rent out to your husband. You also mentioned that your husband works 3 jobs, and he also has autism and ADHD. I know that you know your parents better than the people on the internet, but if you're certain that they are narcissistic, why go to them for help? OP's reply to the above comment. A lot of that realization was made by my husband. I think it was a way to start to isolate me from my family. There were some absolute truths in there too. But since telling my mom about the abuse, she's shown she's changed a lot of those old-fashioned beliefs and regretted a lot of what she told us growing up. She said she could tell I was suffering in the marriage and tried to let me know I had her support. She told me that she's sorry I ever saw the job and the huge, expensive wedding as reasons not to leave. She said she would respect any boundaries I had regarding this life change and would support me emotionally and even financially. Basically, she's shown more respect to me than my husband ever did, despite her mistakes with me in the past. I think my dad only knows a small amount about the situation of why I'm here right now. His father is in hospice, dying, and I didn't want him to have all the details right away, but I'm sure he'd feel the same way too. Someone asked for examples of the abuse. The most recent was to throw a coffee machine at my head. A little before that, he said he wanted to smear a dirty dish on my face to teach me to be clean. He said afterwards they were all jokes, but the impact is the same. In the past, he's raised his fists or fake kicked me. Oh, sorry to be misunderstood. He threatened to throw it at me, but he didn't do it. But to me, there's almost no difference. It's still an act of violence, even if it's not carried through. When asked for a quick update. OMG, God bless. Yes, I'm planning to make a follow-up post because this got so much attention. I found a really good attorney and hired her. And I was hoping to break the news to my husband by just serving him the papers as well as a restraining order. I told my husband I'd be gone for like a week due to sickness or school deadlines. A week came and went, and it still looked like I needed more time because the papers were still processing. I told his mom about what was going on. They chose to hold an intervention for him by going out to dinner with him and essentially acting as divorce papers and restraining orders. We've not talked since then, as his parents made it clear that anything he told me could be used against him in court. I'm hoping that he gets the papers soon, just to start the process. I've cycled through grief and anger on and off, but I know this is what's best. I'll make a proper post when there's more that's happened. But thanks for reaching out. Update. In short, about a month ago, I realized I was in an abusive relationship where I was being punished for my ADHD symptoms. I panicked and left my house with our daughter, telling my husband that I was sick and needed to quarantine him. I stayed with my parents. I made the post because I didn't know where to go from there. A lot of y'all said I needed to talk to a lawyer before I told him, and that needed to be very helpful. Thank you. I contacted the lawyer and waited for a few days to see if they could serve him divorce papers, but they were delayed. That's how I was planning to break the news to him, but it was going to take longer than I had time for my made-up story. He was sure to wonder why I was quarantining for so long. I had to use my backup plan, so I asked his parents to tell him I was leaving. I then went no contact. What followed was the worst time of my life. Because of how interconnected our social group was, I was so isolated. I did my best to give his closest friends space to be his support group. But I had a friend of mine, who knew the very intimate details of my abuse, completely abandon me to be by his side. I never asked anyone to take sides, but it was confusing to me that she explicitly took his. I was crushed. About a month has passed since we were separately working through our legal paperwork and other things. His parents did their best to keep us out of each other's way when I would drop my daughter off to visit him. But we crossed paths accidentally this past Saturday. He was coming into the movie theater I was coming out of with my friends. My friends stepped in front of me because they knew him to be my abuser. He stepped around them, hugged me, and went on his way. I was so shocked that I collapsed into tears. In between then and the last time I saw him, I had been working with my therapist to recognize the psychological, verbal, and physical abuse. Even an instance of SA. So it was so much more intense seeing him and being touched by him after processing so much on my own. That night, I called my friends to tell them what happened. One of my friends insisted that I hear some information they had. They said my husband had found a new girlfriend 3 days after he found out I was divorcing him, and that it was a woman who had tried to get him to cheat on me 2 years ago while I was pregnant. I've been in shock ever since. Clearly, there was emotional infidelity at the least, but possibly more. I haven't been sleeping or eating well. He's been posting pictures with her and doing things with her that he said he would never be caught dead doing for me. Furthermore, this woman is extremely unsafe to be around kids, and I fear adding too much context here in case, for some reason, this post gets discovered by someone I know who recognizes the situation. But my husband knows she's unsafe. I don't want my daughter anywhere near her. It's not a situation I can legally prove either. But he has totally discarded any regard for the daughter I thought he cared so much about. I have been more livid than I ever have been. For my own feelings and for my daughter. I recorded a video to send to him explaining why I left and how he hurt me and betrayed me. I'm not sure if I should send it. I feel like he needs to know. I feel like he needs to be shaken out of whatever horny spell he's under. It's 3 a.m., and I've just been up crying. I think I still hold a lot of love for him, which scares me. I'm so alone. It's all been the right decision, but I'm in more emotional pain than I've ever felt before. Update. Thank you all for helping me see the patterns abusers take. I will not send the video. In fact, it's too long for me to even send it to my therapist. The advice, insight, and encouragement here have been amazing. I have a good Earl support system, but it's still so hard at night to be alone with my thoughts and feelings. I will do my best to fortify against the lonely nights and not be impulsive. Comments. A response to the top comment, which was, do not send that video. Adding to the above, I do not send it because abusers are vindictive and will do these things specifically because they know it hurts you or to manipulate you, potentially want you to crawl back to him to keep the kids safe. know this person is unsafe for them, or purely want to punish you or make you jealous. The only way to stop the behavior is to deny the gray rock strategy to everything they do. Thinking the video will wake them up is wrong, as you're assuming that they have your and your child's well-being at heart. They don't. And they don't have empathy for you. Instead, if you can figure out how to document how this girlfriend is unsafe for kids, maybe it will help with custody. Then you can feel like you're doing something about it. The hug was totally to F with her, and made OP's friends question her side of the story. OP's response to someone telling them not to send the video and providing alternative, safer ways to get their feelings out. Thank you so much for your insight. I think I'm going to send it to my therapist, at least to help me break down what's inside it, and why it makes or doesn't make sense to expose it to him. A comment that puts it all into perspective. Long comment. Can we talk about how abusers act post-breakup? I promise, once you read this, you're going to feel better because you're going to know what's happening. First, you're going to have to face a few realities, the main one being this. He is going to go out of his way to prove to others that he is not the problem. Now, this can look like many things, but it usually follows a predictable pattern. The very first thing that happens is, you guessed it, he finds someone else. The logic is that if he's desirable to other women, then he can't have been the problem in his failed marriage. You'll see this a lot with men who are concerned about their self-image. And considering what you've described, you're having to lie to get yourself out of there and shelter with your parents, shared friends taking sides, other people being protective of you, etc. You're probably looking at someone who has gone to, and will continue to go to great lengths to portray himself as victimized, and you as the abuser or aggressor. You're going to need to expect this behavior, because if the man has always had a me-first mentality, then that will continue to be his mentality. Your shared friends will take sides more and more, because he will be talking about his version of events, which will definitely put you in a bad light. You can expect some truly rotten behavior from him in the coming weeks and months. Also, don't be surprised when shared friends question you over his version of things, and his version paints you as some sort of monster. He's in damage control mode. Someone is going to be the villain here, and it's not going to be him. You counter this by being yourself, and by quoting something I often used. In a divorce, there are 3 sides to a story: his side, her side, and the truth. Never depend on just one person's version of events. The new woman shows something else that you may have missed. You find that she's inappropriate and dangerous. In other words, he took the best of what he could get on short notice, and that best did not include someone with a great reputation or solid morals. Think about that long and hard. Why do you choose chopped liver when there is filet mignon in the world? Usually, it's because you don't have or can't afford the filet mignon. Personally, I find it laughable that he's hooked up with someone like that, because it shows his inner desperation for keeping up appearances. I wouldn't worry too much about her. That's a rebound relationship that probably covers his immediate physical needs and little else. Those things fizzle just as quickly as they arise. Pun intended. Her presence, combined with his quick hug to you, underscores something else to me. He's laying the foundation for jealousy on your part, a way of saying, look at what you're throwing away, miss me yet? And yes, you're feeling sad and upset because he may have cheated and moved on so easily, and that hurts. Agad's girl, don't fall for that. You know who he is when no one is looking. She does not. You know what he can be. She does not. You know how dangerous he can be. She does not. You are safe. She is not. She just doesn't realize it. Just in case you don't realize it, that hug was an impromptu test to see if you would immediately rebuff him. It tells him if he has a chance down the road, because your response also tells him whether you are so repulsed by him that you can't stand to be near him. It wasn't a declaration of pent-up emotion. Please don't fool yourself into reading too much into his action. Are you crying over the loss of him? Or are you crying because you feel like you didn't mean as much to him as he meant to you? Because if it's the latter, then that's a you problem, born from a lack of self-esteem. Again, you are deep in your feelings right now, but keep in mind that what he is doing is designed to do exactly what it is doing, to keep you unsettled and keep you second-guessing your decisions. You're being manipulated and feeling exactly what he wants you to feel: regret. Again, don't fall for this trap. Dry those tears and remember all the reasons why you left in the first place. If it was bad enough that you got out, then it's bad enough for you to stay out. Now, generally, men and women react to breakups differently. Especially with kids involved, women tend to be more introspective, feeling-oriented, sad, and focused on family first. Men tend to go all out for a party lifestyle. Gender-wise, the grief stages look very different. It's like one side closes in so they can process what just happened, and the other side jumps right back into the carefree abandon of a single's life. He's posting pictures of this new person and showing the world via social media that he's doing just fine, thank you. Like social media, that presentation is an illusion. It's meant to show you how much fun he is having. Yes, he knows mutuals are probably letting you know what's happening, or he knows you are following his social media antics. And if you know what you're seeing, it's apparent that he's giving less of a picture of a happy guy and more performance art. It's not real. We portray on social media what we want people to believe, but more often than not, it's not reality. Give it a few months, when your emotions are on a more even keel, and you will find that you are happier without him. Coincidentally, this is around the time when the abuser starts making overtures for reconciliation. When that time comes, remember all the reasons you left, and remember all the times he made promises that never came true. Because when he tries to reconcile, he will come with promises of being a changed man and a good man, and you too can start over. Don't do it. Within months, as soon as he feels you are locked down, he will stop pretending, go back to his old self, and you will be in exactly the situation you just escaped. You need to prepare for that too. Stay strong, stay focused, and don't let him sucker you back in or manipulate your emotions. He knows how to press your buttons, and he's going to do exactly that for a while. The best thing you can do for yourself is to protect yourself. OP's response to this. Holy SHT, this is so insightful. Thank you. He was my first real relationship, so I didn't have any real breakups before him to compare to this pattern of post-breakup behavior. What you said about the new girlfriend was very insightful too. He tried to be her friend. She tried to hook up with him, and he seemed genuinely embarrassed by her because of how publicly she did it. Everyone in my circle knows who she is, and 99% of them have completely abandoned him on their own decision because of that. There are a few enablers protecting him, but they are not the majority. But I think you're completely right. Why would he choose someone for whom he publicly made statements about? I didn't cheat, she made the move. It was a misunderstanding. When this relationship crashes and burns, he's going to come back to nothing. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.